Hello from my side. My name is Maxime Flamand. I'm a CTO of the 5G Automotive Association, and I thank the organizer for this invitation to this Summit 2022 for the Financial Express. So now my task is to give you a little bit of a glimpse of the future of mobility, and especially with the introduction of 5G in the automotive sector. And I will start with just an introduction of the 5G Automotive Association, and then jump into more examples of the technologies and the use cases that we are talking about. So first of all, about 5G Automotive Association, it's an association that bridges the automotive and telecommunication industries. We are addressing different mobility needs, especially for smarter, safer and environmentally sustainable services. But we also look at aspects of comfort and more and more automation that are coming up in the vehicles. It's a global cross-industry association. We are representing telcos, vehicle manufacturers, smartphone vendors. We are at the moment more than 125, 13 of the top 15 OEMs, 9 of the top 10 MNOs, and 3 of the top smartphone vendors. We started relatively not so long ago, so it's a relatively young association. We are 5 years old, and we are very proud that from 8 members in 2016, we ended up with this very, very comprehensive representation of the global industry. So in a nutshell, our association is focusing on different aspects of the connected vehicle deployment. First, making sure that in different parts of the world, we are enabling deployments, preparing the technology, lifting different barriers and accelerating them to market. We are working on standards, contributing to standards from a pre-standardization point of view, in giving inputs to different global standards, but also regional standards, so that we can start from a level playing field in terms of telecommunication inside the cars. Now, many of the different regions have their own policy, and so we are advocating to policymakers to make sure that we are addressing the opportunities of connected cars, and we have a global viewpoint on what can be done in which regions. And then finally, we are looking at innovation rather from a user standpoint, leveraging innovation solutions so that when they come, we are ready as an association to bring it to the market as soon as possible. So when we are talking about connectivity in the cars, there are often a reference to V2X, vehicle to everything. And especially what we are looking at is cellular V2X, because we are looking at the 3GPP standards as a global communication standard, which is of course, comprehending, for example, 4G, 5G technology. So we are looking at the connectivity of the car from a mobile network communication point of view, so connection to the usual mobile networks that you have for your mobile phones. And when 5G is not available, there is always a fallback on 4G capabilities. Now, there is also another less known communication mode, which is called a direct communication mode. We are looking at different radio access there, LTE V2X, so which depends on LTE standards. It delivers basic safety kind of messages, and then 5G V2X, which is then related to the newer releases of the 3GPP, which then gives a few more capabilities to allow for advanced driving scenarios. And I will illustrate a little bit more how this looks. Now, but the automotive landscape is, when it comes to connectivity, is relatively large. And so we are trying to look at different aspects of what is what needs to be done. Now, I talked just the slide before about LTE V2X and 5G V2X, how this evolves, how this complements each other with basic safety and advanced safety. But then there are other elements, such as the vulnerable road users, pedestrians, cyclists, and the fact that they all have somehow a smart device in their pocket. So how this can be leveraged in order to fit and contribute to the traffic ecosystem and safety ecosystem. We are very often confronted to requests from the vehicle manufacturers on how you can guarantee the quality of service. Is there a network slice that can serve, for example, traffic management? And so from that point of view, we are trying to leverage this through the network slicing. Positioning has always been a problem or challenge. The more we have advanced driving use cases, the more positioning becomes an issue. We are looking at sub-meter kind of positioning accuracy in a high dynamic mode. So we are leveraging, of course, the satellite network, the GNSS network for doing that. We're looking at corrections coming from the mobile network, and we are also adding also capabilities of the 5G in order to bring positioning to the sub-meter level accuracy. Trust and authentication also are important, especially from the point of view of exchanging time-critical and safety-critical messages between the different actors, whether it's from the roadside, the traffic lights, or but also between cars. Edge computing is one tool that really will bring us into lower latencies when it comes to using the mobile network. And finally, there is the whole area of Internet of Things that needs to be leveraged into the connectivity ecosystem for the vehicles. Okay, in a nutshell, this shows a bit the large scope of our activities. But what I wanted to do here is to look more at the vehicle manufacturer's perspective on why 5G is so important. And I take two examples, one from BMW and the other one from Audi. Here in this case, what BMW is looking at is the versatility of the radio access that is put into place with the 5G access. So what means versatility? It means that with the same radio, you can do many different things. You can serve the entertainment needs of the passengers, the infotainment of the driver, but also then gradually looking at safety and autonomous driving applications. And on the left side, that would mean you're exploiting the mobile broadband capability of 5G, giving up to a gigabit per second kind of pipeline for the data, but also then when it comes to safety and autonomous driving, you are looking at more ultra reliable, low latency communication, where the response time would be in the order of 10 milliseconds. And then another perspective, which is a bit relatively similar, but more from a evolution point of view and investment point of view. Audi is basically saying, okay, what does matter when you consider new technologies such as 5G? And you just look at, does it do the existings better? Does it do more things? And so does it offer more capabilities in the future? And does it have a long-term perspective? And for all the three questions and the examples that are given in this slide, it clearly is an option that the vehicle manufacturers are really looking seriously as a future as the future of the automotive connectivity, using the 5G both from the UU point of view, so that means the connectivity to the network, and for the short-range communication with more safety critical aspects. Now, how does that evolve over time? We have seen in different parts of the world since 2016, traffic efficiency kind of use cases that have been promoted using the LTE-V2X mobile network communication, so no direct communication. We have in total in the world, we have about 250 million cars that are connected, that are able to exchange some local hazard warning or traffic information. Now, when we are looking at the recent evolvement, especially China and now coming up in US, we see that the direct communication using LTE-V2X is starting to becoming more present in the vehicles. In China, 13 vehicle manufacturers have announced or have already deployed the direct communication part of LTE-V2X. And in US, the recent development really point that there is a deployment that is prepared for a 22-23 time frame by different vehicle manufacturers. Now, when we are looking at more advanced driver assistance systems and the enhancements that 5G V2X brings, then we are talking about 25, 27, where we are talking about more critical types of interactions, maneuver coordinations, and sensor sharing kind of use cases. Now, a little bit of a step back, and then I'd give a few examples, is why we need a comprehensive approach to the safety of the vehicles. And this slide I use very often in over the last 10 years, I would say, to illustrate how the vehicle manufacturers have been evolving their approach to safety. So collision avoidance, risk mitigation, and risk avoidance are a kind of chain of events that are important to look at. In general, we always say that the mobile network part would give you information about risk avoidance. The sensors would give you information about risk avoidance or collision avoidance. And then in between, the short range communication between cars at 100 to 500 meters would give you the information about mitigation of the risk. But what happened over the years is that, so this chain of informing, warning, and acting has been blurred over the capabilities of and the improvement of the sensors, the improvement of the mobile network communication, to the point that it is not completely clear which one is doing what, whether the mobile network can do a little bit of mitigation or whether the onboard sensors can do risk mitigations. And so for this reason, the V2V and V2I part have been a little bit squeezed, but still the vehicle manufacturers find it very relevant to have that chain of events between acting, warning, and information, and the V2V part, the short-range communication, is still very important to them. Now, when it comes to the short-range communication, what is always the question is the difficulty to increase the penetration of cars that are equipped with short-range communication. And so even if today, as I illustrated, you start having vehicle manufacturers that are putting the short-range communication in their cars, it's going to take 5 to 10 years to have a penetration that is decent enough in order to really make an impact. And in the meanwhile, what we want to make sure is that the mobile network is compensating on some of the safety impact as well as the onboard sensors, so that we don't wait and see and only focus on the short-range communication. Now, a little bit of illustration of what it means, and that's something that is taken from an example that is pretty well understood and introduced in different parts of the world, is the local hazard warnings. And here we have a vehicle that is using its sensors to check out any dangers. But what can happen is that up front, there are vehicles that are able to detect dangerous curves or slippery roads, then eventually transmitting this information either directly to the car that is behind or also to a location platform. That location platform can then make sense out of it, make some risk assessment, and then as well match it to a high definition maps. And when relevant, then that information then can be transferred on the navigation of the cars. This seems relatively simple. Over the years, as I said, two different paradigms have been exploited. One with the centralized way of doing it with a location platform and using the mobile network, and then the other one where you have the access to the direct information from the car in front of you. So these two are complementary. What we have seen over the 2016, so over the last 5-6 years, is that more and more capabilities of detection with mobile network capability is introduced. And it's introduced not only by exchanging within the same fleet. For example, here the Mercedes are detecting now all these different kind of events, broken down vehicles, accidents, hazard lights, heavy rain, slippery roads, etc. But then what is being done and anticipated is that now Mercedes will be able to share this information also with other brands such as BMW, Audi, or Volkswagen, Volvo, etc. So now we see that this becomes a quite global approach using the mobile network to detect these what I would call safety relevant traffic information, whether it's traffic jams, road closure, slippery roads, even wrong way driver warnings are something that starts to be implemented in different parts of the world, whether it's Europe or US. We are talking about even pothole detection and reporting this kind of pothole information to the roadside maintenance. And then also information from traffic lights starts to become available in US and Europe and China. Now, if we look at what can we bring on top of that in short-range communication, where we have to turn to what is being done in China at the moment, because that's the place where most of the vehicle manufacturers have introduced the short-range communication with LTE V2X. So then we start to see a few more time-critical kind of use cases that are introduced: forward collision warnings, left turn assists, which are usually do not pass warning, emergency brake warning, etc. These that we call day one use cases are starting to be introduced in China, but soon, as I said, in US and hopefully also in Europe. Now, if we look at the next steps when we are having more additional features in the short-range data access, we can start talking about cooperative lane changes in the day 2. We can talk about cooperative platooning, vehicle merge, intersection passing, which are then requiring more interactions between vehicles and then even agreements between vehicles. What we do at 5G AA is to monitor these, look at the technology capabilities, and then also look at the, our members' willingness to implement some of the features that we are talking about. And so we have made a roadmap. We are updating as we speak the roadmap. This is a glimpse of what is going to be published in a couple of weeks. You see that the basic safety are clearly the things that are the focus at the moment, but then you start looking at vulnerable road users as well as data sharing of dynamic objects and then teleoperation of the vehicles, etc. And these gradual improvement will require 5G and 5G V2X introduction. Now, finally, I would like to say a little bit about the network coverage. The network coverage has been an important discussion when it comes to relying on mobile network in different parts of the world for the implementation of safety features. We see that when 5G licenses are actually being auctioned in different parts of the world, we see that some of the spectrum authorities are actually requiring that not only the population is covered, but also the main highways and the main roads with the minimum performance of the mobile network, so that the vehicle manufacturers, for example, or all mobility actors can rely on that network access for their use cases. Now, this is something that is existing in different regions. Not all regions are actually giving these obligations, but it's I would say it's becoming a good practice to not focus only on population, but also on highly trafficked and all mobility corridors in your region. And with this, I would like to really thank the organizers for invitation, and I hope I can remotely answer any of your questions, and I wish you a very good and successful event. Thank you very much.